Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I tend to have a fairly loud voice, so mics sometimes are useful, sometimes not. It's an absolute delight to be here. I try to get around the country as much as I can. I have to admit, I've been to East Midlands probably quite a few times, so some of you, I'm sure I recognise a few faces. I've spoken to some of you before. In the introduction, you mentioned about the fit for the future concept. I wasn't actually proposing to talk about that. I'm almost sick to hear of talking about fit for the future, and I'm sure many of you are sick of it, hearing about it as well. If anybody has any questions on it, I'm more than happy to answer questions on it, and I think we're going to have a chat later on talking about a bit of a Q&A on that. But I thought it might be more interesting for you to hear a little bit about me and why and what I'm hoping to get out of the next 3-year period of my sort of chair role. I'm a u3a member from South Birmingham u3a. It was a startup in 2017. I was one of the original members of the startup. Fascinating time. If any of you have ever been involved in startups, that's the really exciting stuff, because you start with a blank piece of paper and you haven't really got a clue what you're doing, and you cobble your way through things, and you actually realize that what you've produced at the end of 2 or 3 years is actually pretty good. And we had 300 members by the time we'd done about 18 months. And it was really popular, and it was we were able to respond exactly to what people wanted. So that was fine. I've got to admit, me being me, I got a little bit bored after 3 years, and I thought, I've got to do something different here. So I said, what else is there around in the u3a movement? And somebody said, well, we need somebody to go on the regional team. I'm sure you've all had this before. We need somebody to go on the regional team. So I went on the regional team in this was the West Midlands, and after a while, I thought this is pretty interesting. There was spirited debate about all sorts of things, and I thought it was quite stimulating intellectually. And vacancy came up for the regional trustee, so I think I was out of the room when they said Allan will do that. He'll be a good guy at that. So I became the regional trustee for the West Midlands. And then a couple of years later, I'd been on the board, and I was fascinated by the discussions on the board. We've got some really clever people on the board, and there's also John as well. I thought some of this is really interesting, and there was a vacancy for the vice chair. And again, I must have been out of the room when they said Allan will do that job. So I became vice chair, and then, lo and behold, another 18 months later on, there comes a vacancy for the chair. And again, unfortunately, it was my bladder, I think. I was out of the room again, and I found myself being nominated for chair and subsequently elected. So here I am in front of you from the 16th of October at the AGM onwards. I'll then be the new chair for the next 3 years. So what do I want out of being chair? This is a good example today. Every time you ask somebody, what do you think about the u3a movement? Everybody has the same message. Brilliant, great, wonderful, saved my life, fabulous. One single message, brilliant. But then you ask them, well, why? What's it done for you? What is it, what are you getting out of it? You don't get one reply back, do you? You get hundreds of different replies, because everybody has a different view of what u3a is doing for them. Some people say, oh, I joined because I wanted to play table tennis, and so great, we play table tennis now. I joined because I want to do philosophy, so we're brilliant, yeah, it's great. I joined because I lost my wife, or I lost my husband 6 months ago. It saved my life. I've been living by myself for 5 years, and I was short of social contact and company. It's great. It's doing all this for me. So there's lots of different reasons why people join the u3a and what they're getting out of it. And that diversity is really, really important. But we have 400,000 members. We probably have 400,000 different ways of what they want to get out of the u3a, but we only have 1,000 u3as, or 1,036, I think is the current figure. We only have a limited number of u3as, and each u3a can't satisfy the full range of activities that, or demands that people want from the u3a. And that's why I've been trying to push recently this thing called a collective identity, or a single u3a, or a u3a family. And I try to say to people, what I want to achieve is that when somebody joins a local u3a, for whatever reason that joining is, that they don't just recognize that here are, might be 65 interest groups, activities within my u3a, but they recognize that they're joining a family, that there's a whole range of opportunities out there as well, not just related to their u3a. And they say, well, what sort of things are available? So I say, has your u3a got a reciprocal arrangement with the neighbouring u3as? So if you want to play table tennis, but your u3a doesn't have a table tennis group, but in my case, the next one along in the next suburb in Birmingham had 5 table tennis sections. And it was great. I went along and played table tennis with them. And so reciprocal arrangements between u3as are really, really important, and it broadens that opportunity. And then I say, is your u3a a member of a network? Here's a great opportunity, great example here. Many networks run study days, they run peer group workshops, they run conferences in their network, and here we are on in the NOTS network with exactly that, and all the activities you've got available to you today. Regions are very similar. 2 weeks ago, I was at the Southeast Summer School. They run a summer school for 3 or 4 days, 150 members from all over the Southeast. Great opportunities, interesting range of activities. Different regions run workshops, again, study days, peer groups. Regions are very important in terms of responding to the demands of the u3a members around. And then I say, do you know what's going on at national level? Well, no, we don't take any notice of what's going on at national level. And I say, well, have you heard about this thing called IGO, Interest Groups Online? Interest Groups Online have over 100 interest group activities, and it's all online, except, it's very rare that people meet each other face to face, but the whole purpose is for people who either don't want to go out, can't go out. It's ideal for people who want a breadth of opportunities, breadth of activities. And Interest Groups Online has some weird and wonderful interest groups. British cemeteries. I never thought of anything as interesting as British cemeteries, but apparently it's a fascinating and it's well organised group. So that's great. And then you talk about the National Learning Programme. Lots and lots of activities that are available online all the time. Interesting speakers from all over the world. Lots of different strange activities. Again, we had an association with the British Museum. We had an association with all sorts of sort of national organisations where they came and gave talks online. And then I say, did you come to the festival? So put your hand up. Who came to the festival in July? Oh, only 2 people out of 90 people here. The festival in York was magnificent. This was in July, and so you came as well. You didn't put your hand up, did you, Jean? Oh, you did? Yeah, right. So we had 900 u3a members in over 3 days, over 100 activities, sports, music, workshops, talks, brilliant, at 3 of the best days of the British summer weather as well in York, and it was terrific. And everybody said, what a great opportunity to meet other people from other u3as, talk to them about our u3a, about everything, and compare what's going on. So that's what I want to achieve. Just put up one side the fit for the future, because obviously that's fairly high up in my priority list. But what I really want to do is that by the time I leave the pedestal, the ivory tower, or whatever you think it is, in 3 years' time, that most members will recognise the breadth of opportunity that exists within this u3a family. And I think that's very important. I think we have a I don't know what your subscriptions are in your, but they're relatively modest in the u3a compared to Women's Institute or many of the other or similar organisations. But for the amount of money that you're paying, you are not restricted to your u3a's activities. I encourage everybody to take part in their u3a and support their u3a and promote their activities, but don't feel that you are restricted to that. There's lots of other opportunities around, and that's something that I think is very important. The other thing I want to see is partnerships. We all know that the profile of the u3a is not particularly high. Everybody keeps telling me it's the best kept secret in the world. u3a, 400,000 members, and yet you go and talk to anybody out in Nottingham town centre and probably only 1 out of 10 people will say, oh yes, I know about u3a. The vast majority of people don't, because we don't shout about it. Unfortunately, here we are, 90 people. How many of us have got u3a t-shirts on? Zero. Perhaps we should be saying to the world, this is what u3a is, and perhaps I'm the culprit as well. I haven't got one on, have I? But perhaps we should be saying to the world, this is what the u3a is all about. We don't have a massive advertising budget. We can't advertise on TV. We're even struggling to scrape together the money to advertise on Boom Radio. I'm not sure whether that's the right thing, but we are advertising on Boom Radio. But beyond that, we don't have an advertising budget to be shouting from the rooftops. So what we need to do is to be forming partnerships with other organisations where through their membership we can be spreading the word about the u3a, and reciprocal arrangement again through our membership. We can be telling them about another organisation. So partnerships are really important to me as well. The third area is what's called new generation or next generation. I've been in the movement only 7 years, and I can feel myself now. I'm 7 years older than I was when I started, and of course we're all getting older, and that conveyor belt is moving slowly on, and sooner or later we're going to be dropping off the end. And unless people are coming on the beginning of the conveyor belt, where the organisation is going to wither and die. And so we need that next generation. And so we have to be saying to ourselves, what is it about our organisation that would attract that next generation? I'm not talking 30 and 40-year-olds. I'm talking sort of late 50s, early 60-year-olds. That's the next generation we need to be looking at. But what do we do in our organisation that attracts that sort of people? My wife's only a few years younger than me. She went to u3a the first year, and she said, oh, I was appalled when I walked in. Everybody sat there with white hair, and I said, well, they're all the same age as you. Yeah, but that's not the point, is it? So we have to work out how do we make the organisation attractive to that next generation. I think it's all about imagery. I think it's all about the perception that we project. Those are the sort of things that to me, we need to be looking at in a lot more detail. The types of interest groups that we offer, are they appealing to that next generation? I don't know the answer to any of these. I'm hoping that we're going to have some groups who will be looking at these sorts of things. But what are the modern things that are happening? Tech is an obvious one. We do have quite a lot of tech interest groups nowadays. Gadgets, new gadgets. The repair shop is very popular. Things like that. So bringing electrical equipment in or any sort of mechanical equipment and doing that. But what are the new areas of activity that will interest that next generation? And the final one, it's not really a final one, but it goes back to our core purpose. The core purpose is all about education and learning. And I feel that we've not really developed in terms of how we learn in the 40 years since the movement's been around. And really, we've got to look at what are the new techniques of learning, what are the new opportunities in learning. AI seems to be coming over the hill, whether we like it or not. It's definitely coming over the hill. So how can we use that AI in the right sort of way? But also virtual learning, remote learning, online learning, as well as face-to-face learning. These are all the new advances in learning techniques that we really need to understand much better than we have at the moment, and understand whether they're applicable at local level or at regional level or even at national level. So they're my sort of 3 or 4 aims for this next 3 years. I want to encourage people to understand that this is one of the best organizations we have. We all know, I'm telling grandmothers how to suck eggs or whatever it is here, we do know that we have to be prepared to step up and do things, because this is a member organization and we are the people who make things happen. We are all u3a members. And so we need people to be stepping forward and doing all of the basic things within u3a, is not just serving the tea and putting the chairs out, but making, helping with the interest groups, coordinating the interest groups, going on the committee, chairing, leading, the sort of things like that. We need people to be stepping up in all of those areas. But I think the only way we can do that is by making the roles interesting and exciting and energetic, so that we can encourage people to use their enthusiasm and take this movement forward. And that's it.